Boardroom on, and welcome to episode 114 of the Toadstool Boardroom for the week of November 13th, 2024. My name's Logan Plant, and I'm joined this week, as always, by Justin Corice
Boardroom on. What's up, Logan? Hey, Chris.
and Chris Shriver.
Hello, gentlemen.
Oh, he's not gonna say it. He's
Combo
gonna.
breaker.
Are you? How long are you gonna be too cool for school, Chris?
I said it one time in the
Yes.
Discord,
Yeah,
and we'll see what happens.
We'll add it in
Okay.
post.
it's.
I edit the
say.
show.
Yeah, that's true. Not next week, you don't. I'm going to edit you in saying
That's
it,
true.
even though you're not going to be with us. But we'll have a special guest joining us next week, so be sure to come back for that. But we have a really fun show for you. This week, I have played Dragon Quest III HD-2D Remake, and I'll have impressions on that. We're going to talk a little bit about Pokemon TCG Pocket, which I'm getting into way more than I thought I was going to. Highlights from Aonuma's Echoes of Wisdom interview with Famitsu and a whole lot more. But we're going to start with one of Chris Shriver's favorite topics in the world, and that is Donkey Kong. Nintendo hosted the Super Nintendo World Direct, showing off the Donkey Kong Country expansion to Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Japan. That was earlier this week. It was Miyamoto walking us through the expansion that will make the park 170% bigger. Sorry, 70% bigger, 170% the size. It's about 3/4 the size of the base Super Nintendo World. Did you guys watch this direct? I'm going to assume you did.
I did.
I watched the highlights.
That's fair. That's fair. It's a big ask to watch 12 minutes about a theme park that you may never visit in your life. Yeah, but to hit the highlights, though, they showed off a little bit of the Minecart Madness roller coaster. The clear highlight for me was the animatronic Cranky Kong. That guy looks amazing. And then Chris, my takeaway is, wow, this is why they're releasing Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. This theme park looks like Donkey Kong Country Returns.
Yeah, and I think the villain that they're putting in here, isn't it? It's the Tiki Tribe or whatever that
Yes.
that guy's name is from Donkey Kong Country Returns and HD and 3D Returns and all the same iterations of the same game, which I think is great. I do kind of wish that it was a new game, but sure, I'll take what I can get. What a concept, right? Donkey Kong getting a new game.
I wish it was King
I
K.
think the
Rool,
park.
honestly, instead of the Tikis. Where's King K.
Yeah,
Rool? Is
like
that this thing at all? Yeah.
Well, and that's kind of the weird thing is like it's not that people didn't play that game, but I think that villain is pretty forgettable.
Mm-hmm.
King K. Rool is like King K. Rool's in Smash, Kingdom of the Crystal Coconut, which everybody watched. Nobody missed that show.
Yeah.
And the Donkey Kong Country series. So the original Donkey Kong Country trilogy. So it seems like that should have made a lot of sense, and I just kind of don't understand the choice, other than maybe they're coming back, or they just said, well, the easiest win here is to just re-release this game, within a month of the park opening up in Japan, which for Japan makes sense, and we know Nintendo makes a lot of Japan-centric decisions because they're a Japanese company, and that's fine. I just wish it was not them. But what killed me was the fact that at the very end they show off the minecart. You're on the minecart. You get to the barrel that's going to shoot them over the waterfall, which is like the big thing in this ride. And they go, "Oh, sorry, you don't get to see what that actually looks like. You're either going to see it later. Some YouTuber is going to show you later, or you're going to come to the park and see it yourself," which was a bummer. But I get it. They want to, get that hype going.
Yeah, I feel like they think that the roller coaster is the biggest spoiler, I guess. If there's spoilers of a theme park, that's the biggest one, where some people wouldn't even want to see what that looks like before they're riding it for themselves. I don't know. The element of surprise feels like a big part of a roller coaster experience. Justin, what do you think of the DK expansion?
I thought it was cool. I like the elements, like the Kong letters around to find, and the bongos and all that stuff. I think it does. It's a lot of nice touches. The animatronics do look amazing. I think it's weird that there's not more. I'm not saying we need like the entire extended Kong family, but like the fact that it's just Cranky and the parrot is a little weird. I mean, do we know? Like they showed off the mascot Donkey Kong. Is like, are we just assuming that there's always going to be Donkey's Kong roaming the park?
Yeah, well, I
I
went
mean, my
to Universal Studios Japan, and there are photo ops with Peach, Mario, Luigi, and Toad in that
Mm.
section of the park. And there are, it's a scheduled thing like it is at Disneyland. There's a sign up that says, at these times, Mario and Luigi will be here. Toad's usually roaming around, and then Peach has a separate photo shoot op at Peach's Castle, which is the entrance of the park. So I'm assuming it's going to be the same here. It looked like Miyamoto was hugging Donkey Kong, which was adorable, by the way, at the Donkey Kong treehouse from the start of Donkey Kong Country and Country Returns. So I think it'll just be like a photo op thing, but I
I love,
guess
by
he's
the
the
way,
only
that
one.
I love that nowadays Miyamoto just goes around selling theme parks. He's in his full Willy Wonka arc right now,
Yeah,
and I'm so
yeah.
happy for him.
hmm Who were you guys more jealous of in that photo, Miyamoto or Donkey Kong? You were
Miyamoto.
looking at that, you're like, dang, I'd rather
Oh,
be hugging who?
Donkey Kong. I'd rather hug Miyamoto. Although I'm not
Okay.
convinced he wasn't just about to set him up for a belly to belly suplex. That's what it looks like.
Okay, Chris, how about you?
I mean, I want to hug Donkey Kong, but like,
Okay.
I feel like if I really wanted to,
Yeah.
I could go to the park and I could hug Donkey Kong myself. So like,
hmm
maybe I have to pick Miyamoto as like who I'd want to hug because
Yeah.
that likelihood is way lower.
Headline for this episode: would you rather hug Donkey Kong or Miyamoto? Write
It
it
took
down.
me a second to realize that you meant the theme park and not just you could go to your local park and find a Donkey Kong like person to hug.
Or Miyamoto.
Yeah, you can find one of those guys anywhere to hug.
Yeah,
I thought the theme park.
Donkey Kong's a dime a dozen.
Yeah, yeah. I except Donkey Kong Jr. He's been missing for like 20 years now. I thought the theme park looked fine. I liked Universal Studios Japan. I liked Super Nintendo World. I talked about it on the show about a year and a half ago now. It's a great time, but it is still just a theme park, and it's going to have all the same trappings of a theme park. Overpriced food. That hot dog did not look very good, and they spent quite a bit of time showing it off. There's these Kong things that you're going to scan your amiibo wristband on, and it connects to the app. That's something I left really impressed with about Super Nintendo World, was kind of the amiibo integration. It was very Nintendo and very smart, but the lines for those things were upwards of 30 minutes just to tap your wrist on a button on the wall. So yeah, Miyamoto, it looks like a blast. He's running around tapping his wrist on these letters and unlocking things on his phone, but realistically that'll take you a couple of hours to just get the 4 Kong letters. So yeah, but it looks cool, and I'm glad that Donkey Kong is getting something like we talked about for years on the show. He gets so little, and now they're starting to ramp it up and kind of treat him as a major thing again. And Chris, I check in with you about once a month or once every 6 weeks on this. Where's your hype level at for Donkey Kong Country Returns HD at this point?
I'm pretty excited for Donkey Kong Country HD Returns HD Remix Electric Boogaloo.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have been pretty down on a lot of the Switch titles that have come out over the last 12 months, and I don't see that changing. And even though it is a game that I have purchased 2 other times, it is a little bit of comfort food, and like I know what I'm getting, and I know that I enjoyed that game twice already, and I do want to play a Donkey Kong game. Um, why not have it be that one and not Tropical Freeze? Like I dip in and out of Tropical Freeze like pretty often. It would be nice to be able to do the same with HD.
Yeah, I think that I'm excited about it. I think it's a great platformer, and like we've talked about, this will be the best way to play it because the Wii had those annoying motion controls and 3D's trapped to a handheld. But I was looking at some footage of it today, and it just looks like a rough port. It just doesn't look great. It looks like a rush
No.
job a little bit. And if this was something like we're seeing, PlayStation just released Horizon Forbidden West or Zero Dawn remastered to bring it in line with Horizon Forbidden West in the same graphical style. And I was just thinking, I wish that Donkey Kong Country Returns looked as good as Tropical Freeze does, but it won't. And that's just kind of a
No.
shame. It's still going to look clearly worse.
Not that company, right? Like
Mhm.
it's very rare that you're going to see. If Nintendo's doing that, it's an event like Ocarina of Time 3D or Majora's
Yeah.
Mask 3D. This is not one of those things.
Justin, do you have any hype for Returns HD?
No, I'm not gonna play Returns HD.
Well, we'll have 2 people on the show that'll talk about it. And Chris, I wanted to talk a little bit more about Donkey Kong, and I asked you to put together a top 5 list of Donkey Kong games according to Christopher Shriver. And I wanted you to run it down. And you posted a list earlier. Did you change it at all from that one, or is that the one you
I
were rolling
haven't
with?
touched it. No, I haven't.
Okay.
No, I'm rolling with it.
All right, what is it?
This is no, it's not in the same order that I played them. It's close though. A lot of
Okay.
these are games that I've literally been playing my whole life. So keep that in mind as I roll through this. Number 1, Donkey Kong Country. Number 2, Donkey Kong Country 2. Number 3, Donkey Kong 94 for the Game Boy. Number 4, Tropical Freeze. Number 5, Donkey Kong 64. Honorable mentions, Donkey Kong Jungle Beat and Donkey Konga 2.
Yeah, that's a wild list to me. I don't know, Justin. How many
Why?
of these you played?
You
Can
said this
speak
in the
to this
Discord.
list?
I will say the thing that blows my mind is the lack of love for the original like Donkey Kong games. Like the best shout out we get is a Game Boy port from the mid '90s.
Yeah, it's not a
Um,
port. That game is so much more than port, I will say.
I think that's why I didn't include it. Because
Regardless, I think like were I to make my own list, and I haven't pre-made a list, so I haven't thought it out through too much. I think I would probably have Donkey Kong Country at number 1 for me, but I would have had like what year was Donkey Kong originally on the NES? Like 86, 87?
86,
Yeah,
probably,
something like that. So like that would probably be number 2 on the list for me because I think that game is impeccable, and I think to this day unimaginably replayable. I remember when I was playing through NES Championship Edition, like getting those Donkey Kong levels, like it was a reminder, man, this rules. What a fun game. So I think that should be higher up on the list. I think that Tropical Freeze, again, for me, probably slicing at number 3. I think that game is like extremely good, if a little bit on the hard. Ooh, boy, maybe Returns though. Yeah, it's a tough one to put together because there are some bangers in this, but I don't know that I totally agree with Chris.
I feel like let me defend myself and just say I feel like there are a lot of good Donkey Kong games out there, much like there are a lot of good Zelda games. And
Ooh, okay. I already don't know. If
all
I
right,
even
you
agree with
just
that.
talk. You go ahead and say your piece and dunk all over my childhood.
He's going to put
Have
Mario
at
vs.
it,
Donkey
Plant.
Kong at the top, isn't he?
Absolutely not. No, my take is that, well, one, I am no expert in the original trilogy. I don't think they've held up especially well. You guys all know that. But I understand that they're going to be on your list. Don't people pretty much agree 2 is better than 1? I was surprised to see 1
The
over
internet
2.
likes to agree about that, but 1 is the game that made me fall in love with Donkey Kong, and
Okay, that's fair.
that is why it sits at 1.
Okay, a personal choice.
It's
That's
like the
fine.
second game I've ever beaten.
I don't know if I can just live with a list where Tropical Freeze is number 1. I think that game's so much better than any other Donkey Kong game. And you put it at what, number 3 or 4?
I put it at 4.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Under Donkey Kong 94. And then this is a wider discussion. Do the Donkey Kong games where Donkey Kong is the villain count as Donkey Kong games?
Well, like
I mean-
Mario versus Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like Donkey Kong, yeah.
Yeah, see, that's weird because it's just a completely different series at that point. It's not. I don't know. When I was thinking top 5 Donkey Kong games, I don't know if I would include those because those are almost part of the Mario versus Donkey Kong series. Is what I would put Donkey Kong in now. It's the first Mario versus Donkey Kong game. It's just not called that.
They
Yeah, I
never
mean-
went back and changed the name of it. I mean,
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, if Echoes of Wisdom is a Zelda game, just like Breath of the Wild is, I think that Donkey Kong, whether you're the
Okay.
protagonist or the main driving force, can apply as well.
I'm with
Okay.
you, Justin.
Yeah. And then Donkey Kong Country Returns not even getting an honorable mention was also surprising to me because that game's so much better than like
really good.
DK64. But I get it.
DK64 is so bad.
Those are all my hot takes on Chris's list.
It's fine.
So can I give you my quick case for why I like
Yeah.
Donkey Kong Country 1 better than Donkey Kong Country 2?
Yeah, go for it.
So in Diddy Kong's Quest, you don't actually get to play as Donkey Kong, right? You play as Diddy and Daisy. Dixie, sorry.
Dixie Kong.
Yeah. And take nothing away from Dixie. Cool character. The whole helicopter thing is really neat. But not playing as the big guy was a disappointment for me in that game.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed the way the size and mass of difference between Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong factored into the gameplay in the original. Like it made it like I remember playing that game with my brother, and you know he's the older brother, so he would be Donkey Kong and I would be Diddy Kong, and like there was something about the roles and the size differences that was really that I thought was really cool and appealing. And like when co-op games so often make both players exactly identical, if not palette swaps, the fact that it was at least a little bit asymmetrical was really neat.
That's a good take. You know what other game you don't play as Donkey Kong in? Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong.
Sorry, I just had to go there. It's a Donkey Kong game. I agree with you guys. I just wanted to see what you thought of it. I really got to play that original trilogy. I still want to at some point. I struggle when I try to get back into Donkey Kong Country 2. It's just, or 1. It just feels like a game that's hard to play if you did not play it when it was new. I think that is
Play it on a
just one of the
CRT.
cases of it.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
has such a strange like mass and acceleration system. Like how you get up to speed and how differently you maneuver at speed. It's not like Mario where it's like a very smooth curve as you accelerate, and then it affects your jumps. Like you like if you do like a little cartwheel to get started, you're suddenly at speed after like 2 steps. You have to play it a bunch to get used to it and get a feel for it. And I think that actually that's a big part of why the games are pretty hard. Is it's difficult to do a lot of precision platforming because of how that works. It's almost in certain ways I feel like a little bit like the original Tomb Raider games, where it's like if you're going to do a jump or a series of jumps, you need to like line up your leaping point first and then take a step back so you know like what you're like where you're
setting yourself
point.
up for.
Yeah, exactly. It like, so it's not quite grid based, but it like again it's a very different. It doesn't have the fast fluid freedom of Mario, and if you prefer that, I can definitely see not liking them as much. But it's not worse. It's just different.
Yeah. I want to know your favorite Donkey Kong games. Listeners, email us toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com or head into the Donkey Kong channel in the Toadstool Boardroom Discord and let us know what your picks. And do you think
Go
Donkey
ahead and
Kong
light
is a
me
Donkey
up.
Kong game? What, Chris?
I said, go ahead and light me up in the Discord, because I'm sure many of you will.
No, I think people will
And
agree
make
with
an
you.
IGN playlist of your favorite Donkey Kong games.
Do it. What
Yeah.
a plug. Wow, nicely done. That was beautiful. I can't wait for a new Donkey Kong game. We've got to be seeing one in the next few years, but we've been saying that
yeah.
for years, so who knows? But I think they're gearing up for it. I'd be surprised if they're not. But Donkey Kong theme park, it looks fun. Let us know what you think of that. Let's move on to talk about a different... Go
Can I
for
do
it.
one thing? Can I just real quick give
Yes.
you my dream scenario for the next Donkey Kong game? By the way,
Please
is
do.
like I like they've never done a good 3D Donkey Kong game, and I know Donkey Kong 64 exists. I said what I said. I would love to see them take a stab at it. Give me the like Donkey Kong, like the like we've seen in the 3D Mario's. Like give me something like that, like big sprawling adventure. That's my my quick pitch.
I agree. We need a 3D platformer that's not Donkey Kong 64. I like Donkey Kong 64. I'm not a total hater like a lot of people are. I recognize that game has significant issues, but I played that multiplayer so much growing up. The split screen battle with the pineapple and coconut guns or whatever they were. Yeah, no, Donkey Kong 64 is super fun. And those characters aren't like any other games. You have Tiny Kong as in Diddy Kong Racing DS, but and a couple of them make it over into Mario Baseball and stuff. But yeah, that side of the Kong family tree is kind of lost to time, as is most of it.
Donkey
Justice
Kong
for
Odyssey,
Lanky
that's
Kong.
what I want. Donkey Kong Odyssey.
I would love that. And Justice for Lanky Kong Odyssey. My favorite Kong is Donkey Kong Jr., who has disappeared off the face of the earth. He is gone.
So you know why he disappeared, right? Like, you know the theory behind all this?
Did he do something bad and get canceled?
No. So
Okay.
Cranky Kong is Donkey Kong from the arcade game. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
Donkey Kong is Donkey Kong Jr. So Donkey Kong Jr. grew up. That's why you don't see him anymore. That's like
I thought that
The
he was
lore
Donkey Kong the
of it.
Third. I thought the lore was that Donkey Kong is Donkey Kong the Third, Donkey Kong Jr.'s son, and Jr. is nowhere to be found.
I've never heard that.
Where does
Really?
this
Okay,
fit in the
but I
Donkey
haven't
Kong
heard that.
timeline?
Yeah, we do. We need a Donkey Kong Historia, please, Nintendo. Okay, I'm looking up if he's Donkey Kong the Third, if that is real or if I just made that up. I thought it was like from a Donkey Kong Country manual on the Super Nintendo or something like that.
Friends, write in with your hottest Donkey Kong timeline takes.
Yeah. I'm just quickly Googling, is Donkey Kong Jr.'s son? Donkey Kong's the father of Donkey Kong Jr.
Checks
It's
out.
okay. Cranky Kong The new Donkey Kong is Cranky Kong's grandson, leaving DK Jr. out of the game.
So he just
So-
disappeared.
Yeah, he's gone. He's just gone.
And
He went the way of Bowser Jr. Or no,
Koopa Kid.
Koopa Kid. Yeah.
and
Just
Weird.
wiped.
Nobody's talking about this. We gotta
I
find
know,
this guy.
We do. I think he's very briefly in the Super Mario Brothers movie. I think in that big Donkey Kong segment, there is a Donkey Kong Jr. in the crowd. And there's a
I know,
Diddy and a couple others.
Chunky Kong is there.
Yes.
And
I
Diddy
love
and
Chunky.
Dixie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think DK Jr. is somewhere in there. So he's my favorite, and I want them to bring him back. It's been a very long time, though. Okay, speaking of things that we've been waiting a very long time for, Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake. This was announced over 3.5 years ago, and it's a remake of Dragon Warrior 3, known as that in the United States, but it's Dragon Quest III. It's the same thing. I am playing it. I am not as far as I wish I was through it. I got an early code for it, but I was reviewing a different turn-based RPG at the same time, so I didn't get to give as much time as I wanted to this one. 10 hours in, I adore it, though. I love this game so much. I went hands-on with it at PAX West. I believe you did too, Justin, right? You played it then
Sure
too?
did.
Yeah, and we both liked it a lot, and everything in the full game is living up to the hope of what we thought it would be based in the preview event. The pixel art is just gorgeous. All the enemy animations and combat just look amazing. The turn-based battle system is just rock solid, just classic Dragon Quest combat. And I really like the party customization system. You really get to build your entire party outside of just your main character, exploring really detailed towns, talking to NPCs with great dialogue. And especially after playing Mario and Luigi Brothership, I just love how much this game does not hold your hand and just kind of sets you loose on this world that is dangerous, and you can get your butt kicked if you're not careful, and it's not always super clear where to go, and there's these side quests you really have to piece together yourselves. I'm just loving it. It's a perfect RPG to play with like something else on in the background, or just relaxing before bed, play that for 30 minutes. It's perfect, and I am really in love with it so far.
You know what? One of my favorite takeaways from the seeing it in person at PAX is I love how good the Akira Toriyama art style looks in this HD 2D. In especially when you're in battles and you see the monsters and the enemies, and I forget who the dude was, that big thief boss at the end in his awful little green speedo and all that.
Yeah.
It looks so good. It is. I think it's one of the best looking games of the year. I'm super stoked for this one.
Yeah, I agree. I'm playing it on Switch, and it runs pretty nice on Switch. It drops from 60 to 30 in some specific towns that are more populated, but it's never a bother. It's just noticeable that it does switch to that, but it's nice on Switch. I would recommend it on Switch, as most HD 2D games have been pretty good on Switch. I know Octopath 2 specifically struggled a little bit on Switch, but I just think it's a perfect fit for the handheld hybrid system.
One of the things that stood out to me too was how good the lighting is. I'll bet that lighting looks great on an OLED screen.
Yes, it does. I can confirm that it looks amazing on the OLED. And yeah, Justin, I totally agree. Just Akira Toriyama's enemy designs are just really striking in this art style. Like the wolves that have one eye popped out of their socket, just hanging down and dangling. It just looks so good, and they all have great attack animations and death animations when you finally defeat them. Yeah, the enemies are a big highlight. I think the one thing I'm only a little bit mixed on is it's an extremely faithful remake, sometimes to a fault, which is fine. That's just kind of what they're going for. But item management, equipment management, and your inventory is cumbersome. You spend a lot of time in menus. You have this item bag, but when you're in battle, you can't access the item bag. You can only access items that are on each person. So you're constantly going into your item bag and giving items to people. So, I need 3 healing items. I'll give that to my main character. I'll give 2 magic restoring items to my healer. And you just spend more time than I would like sifting through menus, but that's what old school RPGs are like. So it's just, they lean completely into the traditional style, where something like Final Fantasy VII, the remake trilogy, is totally different, and they're trying extremely new things. These Dragon Quest remakes are just extraordinarily faithful modernizations, and it's a cool way to see this approached.
How are you finding the story so far? I think a lot of times for older JRPGs, it's when I go back and play them, sometimes I realize how much my kid brain was filling in gaps and making the story more than it was. How was that so far?
I would say that's still true. I would say that so your entire party doesn't speak. This is an entire party of avatars. Your main character never speaks in Dragon Quest, but in the later games, your party members do. But 3 is old enough. It's an NES game. This is from the 80s. This is an old JRPG. And your party characters are all silent as well. So no one in your party is talking. You're just this band of 4 silent adventurers journeying through this world in these towns. And basically the story is there's a big evil thing that's going to kill everything, and your dad went off and tried to kill it first and failed, and that's about it. And you go to these places and you're just asking the leaders in these towns to open a gate for you. They open the gate for you. You go find a key that opens all the red doors in the world. And then they say your next step is to go find the key that opens all the blue doors in the world. That's the level of quests we're talking about. It is very old school, but I don't mind it because, again, coming off a super chatty game that I had just played, I don't mind that they just let me get straight to it. There's pretty much no fat on the bone. It's just all meat, and I'm enjoying it. Chris, anything on this game, or this doesn't seem like your type of game?
It's not. I mean, it is pretty crazy. I was just looking at screenshots of it to look at this and then look back at like Octopath Traveler and just see how far this style has come since the beginning of the Switch's life cycle. Do you find that it is easy to like because of the jump from NES to Switch and like modern saving schemes and things like that? Like, do you find that it's easy to like pick up and play and like hop into for like a short amount of time and then like do a couple battles and then, or would it be easy to try to do that and then lose your place if you come back a week later and you're like, oh shoot, what was I doing? Like, how is it, in that type of lifestyle, I'll say?
I think it's really, really good for that. The map always has your next objective circled. It's very clear where you need to go next and what you need to do. You can still only record to your save file at churches in towns, so that is still limited, but you can bookmark it and do a quick save, so you can still suspend your adventure. And then, of course, if you're playing on Switch, you can just pop it into sleep mode, which is what I've been doing. So
right.
I think it really, really works for that. And something else I'm impressed with in terms of just the modernizations is you can change the difficulty at any time between easy, normal, and hard. And I have turned it down to easy just for grinding purposes. Just when I'm under leveled to do what I want, you can go out into the field, flip it down to easy, flip everyone to auto battle, flip it on to ultra high speed, and then just walk around and watch these really satisfying battles kind of just take place as you're just grinding experience. And to a lot of people that probably sounds boring, but it's just not. It's just really satisfying and enjoyable to, as they say, watch the numbers go up in this game. And that's what Dragon Quest is. It's what it's always been. And yeah, I think that those modern improvements are really, really nice. But this game's still hard. That you still have to keep your equipment up, keep your level up, and you can really, really get in trouble. Some of the dungeons are really big, and when you're on the 3rd floor and you're out of healing items and your MP is running low, you're just sitting there praying that somebody levels up soon to fully restore their health and their MP. Yeah, it strikes a really, really nice balance, I think, of having these new features. So you can level up faster and play in bite-sized chunks, but then still being kind of the hardcore 80s NES JRPG that it's built on. Yeah, that's Dragon Quest 3. I highly recommend it from what I played so far. I haven't finished it yet. Again, I'm just over 10 hours in, and based on kind of how the old one plays out, I'm almost nearing the halfway point. Reviews said that it takes roughly 35 hours to beat this thing, with 50 to 60 if you do all of the side content. So there is a lot in this game, and it's really, really great so far. So yeah, Justin, I hope that you get around to it. I know that the RPGs this year and this fall, there's just so many of them.
So many good and big ones. You know what the secret is going to be is, do I finish the big games I'm playing before February? That will determine whether or not I can squeeze in something like this.
Yeah. February, Monster Hunter Wilds is the big thing that's going to take over 2 of our lives on this panel, and I cannot wait for it. Let's talk briefly about Pokemon TCG Pocket. We haven't mentioned this on the show yet, and it's been popping off. So when I was in the waiting room for jury duty this week, and I had to sit around for 6 hours or so, I downloaded this and played it pretty much the entire time, and I like it way more than I thought I was going to. Have either of you guys jumped into TCG Pocket? Chris, you have. I want to hear what you think of it.
So I will say completely up front, I have not done any battling. Okay. I've literally just been logging in, opening up my packs, and watching the grid fill in as I get some of my favorite
Yeah.
Pokemon. As time goes on. I think this game, more than most other mobile games that I've played in the last few years, does a ridiculously good job at Sherpaing you through what it has to offer. Um, like the different objectives that it has in terms of like, hey, go check out all these different sections within the app. Like you're rewarded for checking those out. Um, Honestly, I just haven't done the battle section because when I do have time, well, I haven't had any time to do more than
Hmm.
like, hey, I'm going to the bathroom. Let me open a pack. It's like really when I'm
Yeah.
playing.
Uh, it's great for
um,
that. It is. It's
it's really
perfect.
it's great for that. It's
Yeah.
just passing the time. Like, you know what? Now let's see what I get. Um, yeah, I mean that is the extent to which I've been able to play it. But I like the fact that they have the not only can you open the packs, but you have it's like not wonder trading, but like wonder something,
Hmm.
wonder packs or something. But basically, it's like if you get 5 cards and you and I are friends, um, and it'll like pick those cards at random and then say, okay, so and so has the ability to open these later on. Um, and it may cost like whatever the currency is, like 1, 2, or 3 of those.
There's so many currencies in this game. There are
Yeah.
9 or 10 different ones, and that I find very cumbersome and confusing. But I'm not a mobile game player. Maybe they're all like this.
I mean, other ones that I've played aren't this bad. Like I played Hearthstone for a while,
Hmm.
and it wasn't to this degree. I think part of it is just that there's so many different ways in which you can play this game. Like if you could play it the way that I am right now and not battle to a point. I mean, you'll probably get bored at some point because it's like, okay, all I'm doing is logging in, opening a pack, and then just seeing what I get. Um, but like the meat and potatoes here seems to be once you have enough cards to start battling with people.
Yeah, and I've spent a lot of the time with the battles. That's what I've been doing the most of, and I think it's awesome. I think the battling is really, really fun. They have smartly simplified how the TCG works and made it super mobile friendly. Battles are quick. It's first to 3 knockouts wins. Everything is really clearly explained. It does this thing where it highlights the cards that are playable on a turn. So you're not sifting through your entire hand thinking, oh, what can I actually play here? It says, no, you can play one support card. You can evolve one of your Pokemon that's on your bench. You can place more Pokemon on your bench, attach energy to the Pokemon that's in the field, and ultimately end your turn by attacking with the Pokemon that is active. And it's just really snappy, really smart. The coin flips are satisfying. The animations are great. I'm really impressed with this thing. This does not feel like a mobile game that just came out. This feels like one that has been going through years of updates with how fully featured it feels and how polished it feels. Super impressed with it. And as someone who, when I was a kid, I did collect a lot of Pokemon cards, but I never really battled with them. I never had friends that were super excited to battle. They just liked collecting them and trading them and putting them in their card sleeves and their binders. And I always wanted to battle. I thought it was a fun looking game. So finally having a way to just do that at the tap of a button on this app is hooking me way more than I thought it would. And yeah, I don't know how much I'll play this because it is the free to play model of, okay, wait 24 hours to open your next pack is kind of, or 12 hours, I guess, in this game. And there's ways to speed up that time, but it's currency you have to earn or pay for. And it's a lot of the mobile game stuff that traditionally turns me away from mobile games. But for now, it's just a really good time waster game. If you're waiting around for something and you just have a few minutes to kill, it's really, really great for that. And it's grabbing me way more than Pokemon Go ever did. And I just think it's just a really, really good time.
So, what is the monetization like? Are you compelled to spend money?
I don't know, Chris, do you have anything to say on
I
that?
I could see how you could be. Like I think if you were really into the battle system and just like and competing against other players and really expanding your deck, then I think it would be very easy to spend money in this. I think they've also designed it in a way where if you want to play it the way that I am and the way that like Logan just said, like almost like the way you would treat a Animal Crossing, I'll say New Leaf. At least this is how I played New Leaf, where you hop in maybe for 20 or 30 minutes a day. You do the things around your town, and you're pretty much done. I think it's that, but at a much smaller scale. I think you could hop in, um, open up the card pack, do that wonder trade, whatever the equivalent of that is, and maybe one or two battles, and like I'd probably be good. But I think to Logan's point, it is kind of like a perfect game for, oh, I'm waiting in, I'm in the waiting room at the doctor's office and like I have nothing to
Mhm.
do. I think it's a really good time waster for that. But if you're like getting hooked to it, I could see it being a problem.
Yeah, there's individual currencies you can purchase to just add gold bars, which have exclusive items in the shop, and you earn gold bars without paying at just a snail's pace. It wants you to buy them. That's how most of these things
Yeah.
work. And then there's also a subscription plan, which is first 2 weeks are free, which I'm doing right now. So I'm pulling more packs daily because I'm a premium member. But then after the first 2 weeks, they start charging you $10 a month. So I have this alarm set, to cancel it when that time comes. I'm not paying $10 a month for one mobile game, but I agree with Chris. If you're super into this, if you've been a Pokemon TCG player or collector for a long time, I think this is a good way to spend, I think, money on a game. I think that it feels right now when I jumped to that pro tier, there's a tangible difference in the stuff I can do and what I can earn that if I do keep playing this for 2 weeks, it'll be hard to go back to the normal way because it is incentivizing. So yeah, I think that I don't know yet. I haven't played enough to know if it strikes a balance of you feel like you have to pay to win. I have been in a battle where someone just dropped an Articuno EX and I don't own a card that's even close to that good and I just lost. So that does happen, but that's kind of how TCGs work. That's if you don't have
Yeah.
the cards in your deck, you don't win. So it feels like a smart translation of Pokemon and even the monetization. It's cheaper than buying 50 booster packs at Target, right? That's so expensive. So it's definitely
That's
cheaper than that.
Yeah, that's kind of where what I wanted to bring up is like if you're somebody that maybe you were into it when you were growing up or a long time ago or whatever, and whether you're limited on space or you're limited on even just finances like fun money, I think it's a good way to scratch that itch. Like I was very into collecting cards up through like I think Gen 3,
Mm.
when I was growing up. Um, and then fell off of it, but it does like kind of have it has that like it scratches the nostalgic itch of getting a booster pack because you convinced your mom in the Walmart line, oh my
Yeah.
god, can I
Hmm.
get one?
Hmm.
And even the way that they animate you opening the pack and then like you swiping through each card that's in the pack, like it is very reminiscent of how it was when I was growing up, which is like not an easy thing to do and probably something they should be commended more for than they probably are being commended for. Um, so it's cool. I'm happy with I'm impressed with what they've done so far, given that it's still in its first few weeks. Like Logan said, it seems very like well thought out.
Do
Yeah.
the battles work the same way as like Pokemon trading card battles? Like, could you learn how to play the card game by playing the app?
Yes, totally. Yeah. It's
The
simplified,
main
but yes.
Yeah, I was going to say the main difference that from my understanding is the way that energies work. So like you used to have to sub in like I think 15 to 20 energy cards whenever you would
Hmm.
play, and they were always like type specific when you would play TCG. So if like you had an electric deck, like you would want to have electric energy in that deck. Um, and this one, it's like you have unlimited energy, but you have to apply it. You can only apply it at certain times, I think is the way that it works.
Yeah, how it works in battle is so like Chris was saying, you used to have to spend a third of your deck on these energy cards to attach to your Pokemon, but now you have this energy bank that generates one energy per turn.
Mm.
And the type is dependent on the makeup of your deck. If you have electric and fire types in your deck, then your energy bank will alternate between generating electric and fire energies. I'm right now just running a pure fire deck, so all I have to worry about is fire energy. So that's all my bank generates. So every turn you just drag and drop an energy onto a card. So energy was always my least favorite part of the TCG when I did play it. So I really like the change they've made. It's just way more streamlined and it makes your deck cooler. When you draw cards, you're going to get a really cool Pokemon probably. And it's just all of it just feels very mobile friendly and satisfying. So you could learn it either way. I picked up the mobile version really fast because I was familiar with how the real version works, and I think it could go the other way too. If you want a
I mean,
really expensive hobby.
yeah, really. I'm also the kind of guy that if you ask me to play a board game, you really have to convince me, and then you have to be patient with me, like, and understand that I am a dumb human, and it's going to take me a
No.
while to learn the rules. And I
Mhm.
really appreciate like TCGs like this that are baked into an app where it's like, no, dummy, go click this thing. Like, because having to ask somebody that in person or like messing that up always feels like I always feel bad doing that. So I feel like this is the first time that I've like had to meet. I didn't play the TCG like Game Boy Color game, or they had one that was on iOS a long time ago, a couple years ago. But this is the first time that I feel like I did some of the tutorials in it. That it seemed like it was pretty easy to follow.
Yeah, super easy tutorials. I think they did a really, really nice job with that. So, yeah, it's impressive. And Chris, I'm glad you're enjoying it because it seems like that easy pick up and play for a few minutes thing that you like right now, and it's nostalgic. And yeah, you were talking about opening the packs. It's so satisfying swiping your finger across the screen, and they just tear off the top of
Yep.
that cellophane. It's amazing. And then some of the cards that are in there are cards I had when I was a kid, and it's super cool to see. Oh, I had this one. I remember this one in my binder. It's really, really cool. And they smartly for this first wave picked cards from all generations, not just Gen 1, which they often do. Pokemon definitely has a problem catering exclusively to Gen 1 nostalgia. This game doesn't do that. It does it to all generations, and I think that's really smart. So no matter what age you were 7 years old getting Pokemon cards, you can still have that nostalgia here for the cards that you had when you were that age. So yeah, they nailed it. Super impressed with it. The most impressed I've been with a Pokemon thing in a very long time. I can safely say it's very cool. Let's move on and talk about highlights from Eiji Aonuma's Echoes of Wisdom interview. The Zelda producer sat down with Famitsu in Japan, that's the famous gaming magazine over there, and did a really cool interview all about Echoes of Wisdom, kind of a post-mortem after Echoes is a little under 2 months old at this point. So a shout out to Nintendo Everything and VGC for the translation of this interview. A couple of highlights. The developers didn't think of exploits like the tornado bed that was taking the internet by storm 24 hours after this game came out. That's just so cool. They have hundreds of people working on this stuff, and they didn't find this what some players found right away. I think that speaks to how cool some of the stuff in this game is. Link was originally going to speak, but Aonuma said no matter what I made him say, it just didn't feel right, which led to the story decision for why Link can't speak. They also talked about the criticisms of the frame rate, saying that variable frame rate was the best option available, and they didn't super elaborate on why, but that's just
Incorrect, but sure.
Yeah, that's what they said. Chris. But this is the quote I really want to focus most on, and this is Aonuma, who said, "The top-down gameplay style that has been used continuously in the series is very Zelda-like, and we'd like to keep this up as a contrast to the dynamic 3D games. We want to not just create something that inherits the mechanics of Echoes of Wisdom, but add new elements to make people go, so this is what they're doing this time?" And Justin, let's start with you here. You've been playing more Echoes of Wisdom. Can you start by giving kind of a brief update at where you're at and maybe some updated impressions?
Yeah, so I finally cleared a little bit of time. I'm going to start making some more headway. I finished the Gerudo Desert portion of it in the beginning of the game. I mean, mild spoilers for the very start. You effectively have the choice between starting with Zora's Domain or the Gerudo Desert. I started with the Gerudo Desert. Now I'm heading my way towards Zora's Domain. So I'm over there now at a little fishing village and basically working my way through a bunch of side quests and muckety-muck. But I'm having fun with it. I do enjoy... throwing my little armies of dudes. You know what tactic I came up with, by the way, that I really like now is dropping a Dark Nut and then just grabbing and holding the enemy in place while he just wails on it with his axe.
Nice.
That's my go-to move right now.
Nice.
And yeah, I've had fun. It is a fun game. And so I think that yeah, keep chipping away at it. I think I always like having at least one like back of pocket game that I just slowly chip away at, like when I'm between stuff, when I'm not in the mood to play what I'm playing. That's how I played Xenoblade Chronicles 2 over like a 6-year span and got to the end. And I think Echoes will be my game for that for now.
Yeah, that is a nice thing to have when you're just burned out on whatever you're playing at the time. That's I think Echoes really works for that well because it's a game that I think you can kind of burn out on its gameplay style really fast. So it's nice, I think, to play in shorter bursts. But this quote here from Aonuma, who talked about keeping the top-down style as a contrast to the dynamic 3D games. First, point out this is translated. Who knows, maybe the original meaning was somewhat changed or lost in translation. But still, if we take that at face value, I find that interesting because to me, Echoes of Wisdom doesn't feel as much of a contrast to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but instead of trying to bring the 2D series in line with it in certain ways. And if he's talking about keeping this top-down series as kind of its own pillar, then for me, I'd prefer to see more traditional Zelda games in that style. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I think that's exactly my thinking on it too. You know, I'm all for them having like these top-down esque ones in addition to the big like 3D open world ones. But but if that's going to be the case, I want there to be a third pillar. I want there to be also a rail that is the classic style, a little bit more linear, dungeon focused, point A to point B games. Like, give me the three of those. Spin up a third studio. Let let Grezzo keep doing this. Have your A team keep doing the open world ones, and have somebody else give me the next Twilight Princess. And if you can do that, and this is an unreasonable request and selfish, but if you can do that and drop me a new Zelda game most years, I'm a happy guy.
Yeah, a 3-year rotation, that would be incredible if they
Yeah.
could pull that off.
Although if we
I'm
learn anything from
guessing-
Tears, it would be a 2 games on a 3-year rotation, and 1 game on like a 7-year rotation.
Yeah. Chris, if you weren't at this point in your life, do you think you would have finished Echoes of Wisdom right now, or do you
No.
just not like it? Okay,
No.
why?
I mean, other than the fact that I hate the variable frame rate, which I know everyone's like, that's not a real reason. I really don't care for the combat. Like, I feel like it never really clicked with me. I still am only in the Gerudo Desert. Like, I haven't gone back to it since it first came out, and I don't feel compelled to really at all. I actually just put it back in the case because it was sitting on my desk when Mario Party came out. Mario Party came out and that went in the Switch, and like that just hasn't come out yet, and I don't feel compelled to play it at all. This is one that I was really like I wanted to be excited for, but what I found interesting was like the things that Aonuma was honestly kind of dismissive of in this interview were all of the things that drove me nuts about this game. And I feel like that's saying something. Like I feel like he's just making a Zelda franchise that isn't for me anymore, and that's like that's a really difficult thing to come to terms with. Like I don't even know that that's necessarily me being on my high horse of, well, I have no time to play video games anymore, as much as it is like I just don't like, this isn't what I fell in love with Zelda over, and I don't feel myself falling in love with it now.
Yeah, they're so focused on recapturing that exploration and such, and from the originals, and then that creative spirit that Breath of the Wild kind of introduced, that there are multiple generations of people that did fall in with the Ocarina of Time formula that seems to be poisonous to Aonuma now. He hates it. It seemingly, he just is
Just such a
maybe
shame.
not hate, that's too strong,
Yeah.
but completely disinterested and ambivalent towards it.
But
They don't want to go back to it.
I think it's not even that, like, because yes, I grew up like 98 was like a big gaming year for me, like, and Ocarina of Time is a huge important game in my like gaming life. But I also played Link to the Past. I also played the original Legend of Zelda. I loved Breath of the Wild. Like, I think it's this whole let's manipulate every object in the world with a magic wand. Like, I don't want to do that, and they just are shoving it down my throat in Tears of the Kingdom and this game, and I'm just sick of it. Like, I'm sick of coming, and I'm not like mad at you guys, but I'm sick of coming on the show and having to defend myself as to like why I don't want to do that in a video game.
I don't think you have to
just
defend
don't.
yourself. Yeah,
No,
that's fine.
but it's just,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean? Like, it's just not what I want to do in a Zelda game, and it's not what I've ever had to do in a Zelda game until this point, and I'm just kind of sick of it. Like, I'm sick of talking about it. I'm sick of thinking maybe I'm going to like Tears of the Kingdom and then booting it up and playing it for 20 minutes and going, Jesus, like, I really just don't like this game. I'm sick of doing the same thing with Echoes of Wisdom. Like, I don't know. Like, I think it just sucks that there's nothing on the horizon for me when it comes to Zelda, and there's no third-party studios that are doing anything close. So I'm just sitting here like, well, I guess that's it. Like, all I can do is go back and play the old ones, and that's a crappy feeling.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And for me, Tears of the Kingdom is my favorite game of all time. I loved it so much. You guys both know that. But the building's not why. The manipulation of the world and fusing everything together isn't why. how they built on exploration and the world building and how huge it was and how grand it was. It's not necessarily the gluing stuff together. I enjoyed it. I didn't dislike it, but that's not the future of Zelda to me. That's not me loving Tears of the Kingdom and thinking it's like the best Nintendo game ever. Isn't because they let me make a car. It's because of how just impeccable that world was. When you're in a cave and you get the frog and you pick up the gem and you ascend out of the cave, and that exact point you ascend out of, there's someone waiting to give you a side quest, and then you're just off on your next adventure. It's amazing. Breath of the Wild did it too. Tears of the Kingdom does that better. It just does. And that's what I love about it so much. And Echoes of Wisdom kind of doubled down on the things about Tears of the Kingdom that weren't my favorite parts of it, like the building. And I kind of fear too this formula for Zelda. I like the formula, but you need to make like a near masterpiece at least for it to be a game that I love. I don't love Echoes of Wisdom. I don't, because it's a mid-tier game that uses the same design elements of the open world ones and just doesn't pull it off in the same way. I think that the open air formula Zelda does is a tightrope walk. You need to get it so right. I think there's only one team in the world that has, and it's Aonuma and Fujibayashi's team, and they're probably just going to keep doing it again. But yeah, I'm a little worried of this formula getting stale. And I said that ahead of Echoes of Wisdom. Okay, they're going for it again. And now when I'm looking ahead to the Switch 2 Zelda game, what's it going to be? Is it going to be, oh, there's the big plot twist of this story 20 minutes in or 20 hours in of this 100-hour game because I found the memories out of order? Like, I don't want that again. And I'm a little bit worried that they're going to do it again because it's not broken yet.
Yeah, I mean, that was another big part of it, too. Sorry, Justin, I'm jumping ahead. But that was, another big reason why I didn't like it was, like, the story felt disjointed. You saw it coming a mile away. Like, I don't think... What I've seen of Tears of the Kingdom so far, I did not find compelling, like, really at all. The cool moment... I mean, I'll spoil it now. The game's been out for, like, 2 years at this point. A year and a half. When you're on the dragon and you rip out the sword, that's the best part of that game to me that I experienced. I didn't do the end of it. You guys are looking at each other like, oh my god, he did the last boss fight. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. That's fine. You
don't even know what you're talking about for that moment. I don't think.
It's true.
But that's fine.
You might not.
That's okay. Justin, you were going to say something. You were going to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm largely going to like echo what you guys are saying in that, like, I think it's a really cool, like, brave new era for Zelda, utilizing a lot of these, like, giving the tools to the player, giving players tools, not rules and things like that. At the same time, there is so much about those old experiences that I do like, and some of it honestly has to do with the fact that it is like a very crafted experience. And like, I think it's very cool to turn over all the art supplies to me and see what I can create, but at the same time, like, I do want to let the artist be the artist, and let them create. I was playing a game recently. I reviewed MechWarrior 5 Clans for Digital Trends a little bit ago, and it's a very, very linear game. Like, unusually so. Like, their previous one was totally wide open, and, like, something that struck me as I played it was how much I loved that it was a very linear, very crafted, like, these big moments would happen, and they were built to happen, and they would be cool when they happened. And, like, we've talked a lot about how much I love, like, I love the Zelda games, and I like Twilight Princess more than most people. I know, Logan, you're in the same boat as me, but, like, a lot of it is because it has these moments to me that are so iconic and incredible. And, like, there's an order to them, and there's a growth to them, and there's a development to them. And, like, Link goes through a curve and a growth. Like the Link that leaves the village at the beginning can't just go fist fight Ganon right at the end and call it a day and be done with it. And, like, I worry about losing that. Again, I want these 3D ones to continue. I love this sense of freedom that they've developed, but I just want there to also be a way that we can experience these. And, like, Chris, like you're saying, like, maybe this, like, Echoes of Wisdom isn't for you. And, like, if they can continue to create, like, different facets of Zelda, then it's okay to have some that aren't for you, if there are some for you. But that may
I
not
think
always
that's
be
my
the
point.
case.
I think that's where this fear comes from. Is
Yeah.
that, sorry, cut ahead, but, like, it's that I feel like I'm being left behind as somebody that, like, has been playing these games for my entire life, and it feels awful.
Yeah, and like there's elements of it that I don't love either. Like I would say of the three of us, I'm the person who enjoyed Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom probably combined the most. Like I
Oh,
enjoyed
for sure. Hmm.
like I'm probably the one among the three of us that would consider both of them 10 out of 10 masterpieces.
Hmm.
But again, at the same time, like there's elements that I do miss. Like they've like not that they ever cared that much about it, but they really have totally given up on things like the timeline, and I care about that. I love that stuff. And so I'm in the same boat. It's not just Chris being like, old man Wario shaking his fist at a cloud.
Oh my god. How long ago did you start prepping that? What?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, that's great. I love how that was set up, was all building into that image drop. That was a video version thing, by the way. If you're listening to this, check it out on YouTube or Spotify.
We might drop a screenshot in social.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's tough because I knew all it was going to take for not the wheels to fall off, but maybe the honeymoon phase to end on this style of Zelda was one that wasn't a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And that happened this year. And no, it's not the exact same formula. Echoes is a melding of the two, but there are some elements within it that are very, very Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. And yeah, it's in some ways it's not as rich. In other ways, it's much richer. But I just do want both. And when I think back about Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, the moments you remember, there's some big story beats you remember, but for the most part, you remember the own crazy stuff that you did. And it's nothing like Twilight Princess, like Justin was talking about, where I remember like the horseback battle against the moblins that have Colin kidnapped and strung up on a big stake, and that's I'm never going to forget doing
Duel
that.
on a bridge, being shot by a cannon with feet into space to find an abandoned kingdom of cuckoos or whatever. Like,
yeah,
amazing.
It's incredible.
I have two things that I want to touch on. One of them is that, and one of them is just a dunk on Tears of the Kingdom. I really like. There are moments in that game that I know are meant to be cool. That as they're happening for me, I'm like, I'm just critiquing it. Like when you're entering the fire temple, and you're flying through the air, I think it controls like crap. Like it doesn't feel good to play at all. I get that it's a cool moment for Zelda, but like. It would be way cooler if it just felt good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, like when you're fighting the thing in the volcano?
I think so. Like when you're getting into the volcano.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're like flying around.
I was going to say, if it controls like crap, build a better plane, man. It's up to you. Like, build something better if it doesn't fly well. But I think that is the one time that you don't get to
that's
build
the one where
you
they
fly.
give it to you. Yeah, they give it to you.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to say is at the beginning of Echoes of Wisdom, I think I mentioned it on this show, but there's a part where you're like still in a cave. It's when you're first like controlling Zelda, and I had like a box and a barrel, and like that was it. Or maybe it was a rock, I don't know. But I was like stacking everything because I saw the top of the plane that was like above me. There was like a rock formation around me. And I was like, oh, I wonder if I can get on top of that. And the moment I realized I couldn't, it was like, okay, not only is this shoving this mechanic down my throat, but it isn't as good as Tears of the Kingdoms. And like what are we doing here with it then?
It's a tightrope. It's a very, very, it's a tough thing to pull off.
Yeah.
Echoes of Wisdom, does this thing where if you create something that lets you fly across the world, it just fades into this fog and then resets you to where you were. And it's like, why are you encouraging me to break the whole game and then not letting me and then slapping me on the wrist for doing what you've been laying out? It's right. It's like you leave the cookie jar open and then I get in trouble when I reach into it. And that sucks. And so that's why this quote sparked this whole discussion, was him just saying that they want the 2D ones to be a contrast to the 3D ones. Well, that's not what you just made. It's not at all what you just made. And it's just fitting in line with it, but in some of the worst ways. I like that game less as the days go on. I do. And
to me, it strikes me as the sort of game, and like we talk about this sometimes, like sometimes it's really hard to get a good critical eye on things that you're like really passionate about and really affectionate about. And I think Nintendo games can frequently fall in this. I mean, like we're on a Nintendo podcast. Heck, you're on two of them. And like it's it's sometimes you need to like stop, take a step back, and like try and distance yourself from like how much you like something to try and be critical of it. And I think that this is one of those games where and you see this like where critical reception looks a little strange in hindsight once we're a few years removed from it. To me, this strikes this as that sort of game.
I think there's a game that came out last week that we'll be feeling the same way about in a few years when people take a step back from Mario and Luigi Brothership. But time will tell on that one. But I agree, it's hard to critique the things you love in that game. Yeah. Anyways, I'm not going down that rabbit hole again. And if you think I hate Nintendo because I didn't like Echoes of Wisdom or Brothership, I played 85 hours of Super Mario Party Jamboree. I still play like 3 times a week. I'm still in there rolling dice. I love that game so much. It's incredible. All right, that's Zelda. Yeah. Justin, I'd like you to finish Echoes of Wisdom because it hits a sweet spot in there that I'm excited to hear what you think when you get there. I think there's a 3 dungeons part in there that's great.
So I definitely think when I finish the Zoro's Domain and then I do the next thing, that's when I'm going to find out if like I'm really cooking with it, and I'll either go all in at that point if I'm ever going to go all in, or I'll continue chipping it away.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's wrap up the show here with an EGAD email. This one comes from Red, who emailed toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com, just like you can, and said, hey guys, after listening to the podcast the past couple weeks, and you talking about what you think launch games will be for the new Switch, or what games will come in the first year, my question is, what franchise do you think will put out the game that makes people have to buy a Switch 2 because of that game, because it's not offered anywhere else, like how Breath of the Wild was for the first Switch? So Red's essentially asking, what's the killer app? What is that first major exclusive going to be that people see this thing on Blue Sky and say, I need to go get that thing? Justin, what is it?
Super Mario Iliad.
Iliad? Okay, the Iliad. That's a great title. That'd be phenomenal. Yeah, I agree. It's Mario. I think that it's for sure going to be Mario. It's his time. It's his time to have a big new 3D game like we've been talking about.
Like you know, I would buy the system tomorrow if it was out anyway. But like if on day one it had the next 3D Mario, over, done.
Yeah.
I'll give me 2 consoles just in case. I need a backup.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with 3D Mario that they're like diehard Nintendo people will buy it. I don't know if it's enough for people that already have a Switch to go out like that first week and get it. I think if they did an Ocarina of Time complete remaster from top to bottom, that would compel a lot of people in our demographic to go get one that maybe wouldn't otherwise. There's also like this weird thing that we haven't really talked about on this show, where is this console going to run into the same thing that we saw with the Xbox Series X, the PS5, where that first year is, hey, this is available. Like I think Metroid Prime 4 is a perfect example of one. Hey, this game's available on Switch, and it's available on Switch 2. It just looks and runs better. How many of those are we actually going to get? Like, I think a 3D Mario would be exclusive to a Switch 2. But what other first-party games are they going to put on both platforms because they want to sell both numbers? Like, you're going to get more sales selling to 130 million whatever than you would to the 500,000 people that have it day one.
Can I give my one other one that I think is a possibility?
Sure.
My dark horse, or in this case a dark Tanuki candidate, is if they dropped with a new Animal Crossing that did something new and unique with the platform, either by taking advantage of a more robust and sophisticated online or something like that. I think that could be a massive game.
Yeah, cozy games are in, and yeah, that could be huge. I think that could be really, really big. Chris,
and
I
the
want to
last
address
one
what
was so huge.
It was huge.
Yeah.
And Odell doesn't think the next one's going to crack 20 million. We have a running bet on that, even though he no longer is here. He's still around. He works at PlayStation. Yeah, but you know what I meant. Chris, I'm going to speak to what you said a little bit. I think the answer to your question is 0. I don't think they're going to do it. I think that Nintendo first-party games will either be Switch 2 or Switch games. I still think they're going to put out Switch games, but I don't think they will do a single one that launches on both. I think Nintendo...
You don't think they'll have even one Breath of the Wild that was on Wii U and Switch? You don't think they'll have one on day one?
No, I don't think they will. I don't think so,
Wow.
because I don't think Metroid Prime is. I think since this thing's going to be backwards compatible, they're not going to do it. I don't know, because I guess the Wii was backwards compatible with the GameCube, but I don't know. It's a different situation than that, where again the GameCube was coming out of irrelevance just as the Wii U was, and they wanted a big splash to start their next thing. I think Nintendo cares more about driving up the software number or the hardware numbers than selling a few million more units of something. Like if it's I don't know, a Splatoon 4, they're not going to care about selling 10 million Splatoon 4s. They'll sell 5 million on the new hardware to get 4 million people to pick up a new one. I think that to them is more important. PlayStation was in a weird boat. It was a weird transition. It was just bizarre. There were very few games, and a lot of the cross-gen ones were third parties. Sony did it for a while though, God of War and Spider-Man
Horizon.
and Horizon. But I don't think that Nintendo's going to. I just don't think it quite fits with them. But I think there'll still be lower tier Nintendo games that come out on Switch 1. Like if there's a new Kirby, I could see that being a Switch 1 game that also runs on Switch 2. Or Pokemon Legends ZA is a Switch game that will maybe be out by the time Switch 2 is out. It's going to run on Switch 2. So that's my hope and what I actually think they're going to do. But
I love how
it just gets confusing the other way.
I love how that's become the demarcation lines between like the big three. Like Nintendo will sell you software to sell their hardware, Sony will sell you hardware to sell their software, and Microsoft will sell their software to sell Sony's hardware.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of, this is completely unrelated, but with the Halo hype train we've all been on, I was thinking about how awesome would it be if Halo Combat Evolved was or Master Chief Collection was a Switch 2 launch title.
Oh, it'd be
I've just
so
been
good.
thinking about.
And
how
just,
I don't know
amazing
if it'll be
that
a
would
launch title.
Cooking
I
through-
think it'll be there though.
Cooking through those
think so?
missions on something, if you could do a handheld mode, would be so cool. By the way, quick non-Nintendo thing. Logan and I were playing this past week, and they added a third-person mode.
How is it?
It's weird.
weird.
It's real weird.
It's really weird. Yeah.
Before you could only do that if you had like the mounted turret.
Yeah,
in
and
your
that's
account
basically how
carrying
everything
that.
plays. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
weird. It's you get used to it, but it is a bizarre feeling.
I've been wanting to check it out. I haven't yet.
Yeah. Well, we've all been on a Halo hype train. Justin and I have been jumping in late hours of the night playing multiplayer. Chris was just saying he's playing Halo 4 right now. Nice pick, by the way. I love Halo 4.
Thank you. Yeah, I randomly re-downloaded Master Chief Collection on my Steam Deck, and I've been like
Nice.
chipping away at the campaign little by little.
Yeah, Halo Master Chief Collection on Switch 2. I could see it. I can see a world where that's a thing.
Another
Xbox
Nintendo.
handheld?
Bring Master Chief.
Did
to
you
Smash
see?
Brothers.
Bring Master Chief
Yes,
to
please.
Smash Brothers. Xbox handheld is coming. We don't know when. Phil Spencer confirmed it today. No, the other thing was, did you see that they put the 2003 Halo 2 demo
Yep.
on GitHub so you can play it
Mhm.
in
Yeah,
Master Chief Collection?
Yeah.
It's so scripted. Like if you go, I played it over the weekend. If you go off the beaten path at all, like stuff just won't load. Like
Yep.
it completely falls apart.
Yeah, there's some great
cool.
stories about how nervous they were about that demo, because literally if you
Yeah.
timed when you would do your moves, and it was live play, but if you like hit the stick at the wrong time, the demo would crash in front of everybody. It was the thinnest of margins that they got that out and going. It was incredible.
Those were the days, man. E3
Those were the
demos.
days.
Nintendo with Skyward Sword, that's probably their most infamous one. And Wii Music, just that flopping hard in front of a live audience of people.
Oh yeah.
Those are the two
What do you mean?
that
That
come
guy
to
could.
mind.
What was that guy's name? It
Miyamoto.
was like Tommy Drums or something. Remember, like we got a professional drummer here.
Oh, I don't remember that.
He had
I
the
don't
Wii
remember that
Fit.
part
We
of
should
it.
go back.
He
and
had the
watch that.
Wii Fit balance board, and then was like use that as double bass. Oh yeah, it was great.
That's crazy. Well, speaking of the Wii, this week on Nintendo Music, I decided to start dropping in the weekly updates because I'm using the app. It's fun. It is fun to have on while I work. It's just nice background music. Wii Sports has joined the roster. What a great
Nice.
soundtrack. The Wii
Legendary.
Sports soundtrack's awesome. Yeah, just that perfect theme song and everything else in there. So check that out on Nintendo Music. But that is another episode of the Toadstool Boardroom in the Books. We're a weekly Nintendo show here on Thursdays at noon on YouTube, video version, audio on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and wherever else you like to listen to your podcast. You can find the show on Twitter and Blue Sky. Twitter is ToadstoolBR. Blue Sky is Toadstool Boardroom. Send us an email, toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com, and join the Discord. There is a link in the description of this very episode. Justin, where can people find you?
Find me on Blue Sky. Don't even bother with the other one. Just
He's
look,
done.
look for my last name at KOREAS. I still scroll it to Doom Scroll because there's a lot of Doom to be had there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just wrapped up a really really cool interview with one of the legends of the industry. It's gonna take me a long time to transcribe it though, so you probably won't see that this week. Maybe even not next week, but I'll let you know when that's up.
Awesome. Chris.
You can find me at Shrives93 if you have any home renovation advice that you would like to give to me, particularly around kitchens.
I'm your guy.
Oh yeah, you want to chat?
Hell yes.
Cabinet lengths, buddy.
I do.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what I'm up to over these next 2 weeks.
You can find me on Blue Sky at Logan J. Plant, where I posted a picture of the Facebook Marketplace Haul of the Year. I'm very excited about it.
Oh my god.
Oh, so
Here,
good.
I
Insane.
should talk about this real quick. I can't believe I didn't mention it yet.
Yeah.
But I got 9 Nintendo 64 games for $100 on Facebook Marketplace, and this one right here is worth that cost almost on its own. Paper Mario, which I'm psyched about. All 3 Mario parties, Yoshi's Story, Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, and Super Smash Brothers. It's an awesome haul. I'm so ready for the analog 3D. I cannot wait. And yeah, now Facebook Marketplace used to be a goldmine pre-COVID, and now it's much harder to find stuff like this. And I figured out that now it's once a year I find something phenomenal on there that is like the old days. And this was that one. I had to drive a long ways to get it, but yeah, totally worth it. And I'm going to play some of these games on the analog 3D next year.
Facebook Marketplace is where I got my Fire Emblem Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn.
Oh,
wow.
amazing. Nice.
Did you have notifications turned on for this?
No.
Or were
no,
you
I
just
was just
you
searching
just
in
happened
64.
upon it one day?
Yeah, I just happened upon it.
Yeah, every
Yeah.
time I look, it's like $100. You click on the link, and then it's like, yeah, I want $250 for Super Mario 64. I
Yes.
want that.
Mhm.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm very psyched because a lot of these are games that I had when I was a kid. We had at home, and then kind of we either got rid of some or we like divvied up who got what. Like some of them are still with my parents, some of them are with my sister, and like these are games I wanted to play on the 3D. So to see this haul and they're all in amazing condition. They're not fakes. I was just reading so many Reddit posts about how to tell a fake N64 cart, and they're real. These are all real, and I'm super psyched about it. So that was my haul. And also shout out to Justin, who got me my cat's new favorite thing in our apartment, which I'm going to show off real quick. The Tears of the Kingdom wing rug from Nintendo Tokyo. It's amazing, and my cat has been laying on it literally since I took it out of the box. I just ripped him off to show it on camera. Not really. But it's amazing, though. It's a really nice rug. Thank you, Justin. Okay, but for now, that's all the time we've got. I got to get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my Nintendo 3DS. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great week, and we'll catch you next time right here in the Toadstool Boardroom.